On today's show, could Ed Sheeran be singing the Beatles? Chewie wants to hold Han's hand, and everybody's got something to hide except The Rock and his monkey. Movie Talk starts right now. The Beatles reference, and speaking of Beatles references, All You Need Is Love if you are Mark Riley and his lovely fiance now. Mark Riley got engaged, ladies and gentlemen. Did you see how he got engaged?
Yeah,
he made a drone vid about it.
Yeah, and he had a front row audience. Two wandering fools standing in the background of his shot. Scumbags.
There's some extras in the shot, but Mark Riley, congratulations, buddy. Very proud of you, and thanks for actually cranking out the Movie Talk notes in your spare time. Whether you are watching us right now on YouTube or later on after the fact, or you're listening to us on our new podcast, Movie Talk feed, thank you so much for joining us. We have a whole lot of fun to get to on today's show, but first we do kick off with the unfortunate passing this weekend of Milos Forman. The acclaimed director was 86 years old. He was from the Czech Republic. His parents were actually both killed in Nazi concentration camps during World War II. He had a lifelong love of cinema and theater, and he made some incredible movies that are beloved to this day and will live on, including One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Amadeus, and some biopics in the 90s that include The People versus Larry, Flynt and Man on the Moon. Jon Schnepp, if you think about Milos Forman, what is the movie that stands out to you?
For me, definitely One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one of my favorites of the films that he's done. And when I was looking at his filmography, I was like, wow, he did a lot of films I haven't seen yet that aren't even available on DVD, like Taking Off, these films that I'm interested in checking out. So definitely haven't seen The People versus Larry Flynt. That's another amazing film that he did. So check out his filmography and catch up on Milos. He's
he
a very
did a
talented
1967 Czech comedy called The Firemen's Ball, which is a very critically acclaimed as well. I mean, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is something that we always kind of were aware of growing up. I remember we actually watched that movie in high school, and just like one of those days when, you know, the teachers hung over whatever is going on in their life, they just put on that movie, and it's an incredible film. I think, Kristian, if I had to say what my favorite movie is, though, from him, it would be Man on the Moon, simply because the way that portrays stand-up just feels so accurate, and what Jim Carrey was able to bring to the role of Andy Kaufman. When you see Jim and Andy, that new documentary on Netflix, it's cool to watch Milos in that with the behind-the-scenes stuff, try to talk to Jim, but he's got to work through Andy to get to the actor.
I would argue that that's the most annoying part of that doc, because I felt sorry for Milos having to deal with some egocentric asshole.
Yeah,
like
it's
Jim
like
Carrey.
it's another hurdle.
I'm on the other side. I'm on your side on that one too. I thought it was pretty fascinating to watch Milos Forman kind of go through it. Yeah, it was a little frustrating for him, but you could tell even he didn't want to stop it because he knew something was working there. Because he could have said, "I'm not doing with this," but he didn't. He let the process go through because he did get exactly what he wanted. That's the kind of director he was. It was driving him crazy, but he knew that it was still working, and that process was working to get him to become Andy. Like he saw it. It was his decision, Milos Forman's decision, as the great director he was, to go, all right, I'm gonna work with this, because he even sat down with him, and then he started to talk to him, because he could have easily just done that and said, I'm not dealing with this. This is ridiculous. But he didn't. He trusted in the artist. He's worked so many different times with other artists in general, but then this thing came and he dealt with it the way that he could.
I don't know. It's maddening to watch. You
it
might
is
be
One
reading
Flew
it
Over the
one way,
Cuckoo's Nest, though. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is the one that I think was the one that always stuck with me. I think that's the one, the first movie that kind of blew me away. Younger, watching that movie and
Amadeus, man, that's another incredible film. Yeah. I mean, like all of his films also have a different feeling to them. Like he's an auteur, but he's also able to go into all these different worlds. Like Man on the Moon is completely different than Amadeus, which is completely different from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is completely different from a lot of his other films.
Yeah, that's why he's one of the best, because like it's when you're able to not always guess who directed it by the tone of the movie.
Right.
Like when and nothing to say, not to take away so like Tim Burton, but Tim Burton's movies, a lot of them are very similar, and he's one of the masters as well. But I'm just saying, there's like, you see that's a Tim Burton movie, that's a Tim Burton movie. With Milos Forman, it's like, oh wait, this is different. That's very different from this movie and that movie, and it kind of switches around. I mean, Tarantino's, I guess, very similar to what he does, but it's still, there's difference behind it.
Right.
I think as a director, you could say that, and when you watch the Jim and Andy thing, regardless of how you might feel about it, it shows that he was a director that enjoyed a challenge, even if he knew it was going to be himself having to overcome obstacles, that he knew that the art was going to pay off, and that's what he cared about the most. He was not the only person we lost this weekend in the world of cinema. That is also R. Lee Ermey, who was 74 years old. He was a veteran of Vietnam. He was in the Marine Corps from the early 60s to the early 70s, and after he got out, he had a prolific career in acting and voiceover. He is best known as the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket. He was actually nominated for a Golden Globe for that performance. He played a drill sergeant, or a version of that, in a number of other films. He did a lot of voiceover, like I mentioned, with Toy Story. He played Sarge. And the first time that I saw R. Lee Ermey on screen was not Full Metal Jacket. It was as the coach in Saving Silverman. And then I saw him in Full Metal Jacket. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know this guy now. He is so good in Full Metal Jacket. He commands the rest of the movie cannot live up to what R. Lee Ermey does in the first act of that film, Jon Schnepp.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely made an impact, not just because it's a Kubrick film, but like that was a standalone. That film is like broken into those like two very distinctive parts. For me, like, you know, outside of Full Metal Jacket, which was his like first appearance as an actor, and then his kind of his standout role for the kind of followed him for better or for worse for the rest of his career. But he did try some really weird stuff. Like got into some really low budget horror films. But the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake of it, he is so creepy. He is so horrifying in that he was able to embody like the original, you know, the original characters who played the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the first two, and then he was able to take that and make it his own. So I thought he was a good actor.
It's power, you know. There was this, like you said, it's just like this raw power when you first see him in Full Metal Jacket. It's just like, it's one of those things where you could walk out and go, I don't think that guy realized he was on film, you know, like to where it just like they walked in and saw this military dude, like
right.
just he took the experience, and that's not an easy thing to do. You look at that movie that Clint Eastwood just did, right? It's not easy to just, well, that's what I do in life, so I can do it on film. And he did it a bunch of different times, and he also was able to do, besides just that, you remember him, like, even though maybe you don't remember his name as much, right? The second you see him, or the second you hear his voice, oh yeah, I know who that is, and you're like, that guy's great.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at what he did in Full Metal Jacket and be like, oh, that guy, okay, he's just going to play a military guy. And he played a version of that for a lot of his roles, but he was really able to branch out and do other stuff that he became an actor. I mean, he became a real actor. He was given an honorary promotion late in his acting career by the military, and a lot of the military branches gave him a nice send-off this weekend, as well as we do here on Collider Movie Talk. So we move on with Han Solo news, and that is a brand new extended TV spot just dropped, and it gives us potentially the backstory of how Han and Chewie first met, and then it shows some of their adventures that they're going to be having in this new movie. So my question to you guys is simple, because we've talked a lot about Solo. We're very excited about the movie. My question is, based on the nostalgia of Han and Chewie, that's what's getting a lot of people into this theater. At least that's how I feel about it. When we leave the theater, what are we going to be the most excited about? What is the scene, or what is the plot device? What is the character that we're going to be yapping about? Are we going to be talking about how great it was that Han and Chewie had this backstory and we got to see them meet for the first time? Or is it going to be something entirely new that we have no idea what we're going to see yet, Kristian?
I said to Schnepp after we watched this TV spot again this morning together, it's like Chewie's going to be one of the standouts of this whole thing, because I think that the entire plot is going to revolve around him. There's going to be more about him. Stuff on Kashyyyk. I think we're going to see Kashyyyk more so than we did even in Revenge of the Sith. We're going to learn more about his family. We're going to learn about how they met, but it's also not going to be just fan service. They're like, oh, that was cheap. Well, I think that you're going to know, all right, now I get why there's that bond between the two of them, because I'll tell you, this TV spot was that was my favorite stuff I've seen from Alden Ehrenreich so far. This is the interaction between him and Chewie and the way that he did it. This was my favorite stuff. This was the stuff out of everything that I've seen so far. I've enjoyed the first two trailers were okay, but the last trailer I liked. But I still haven't been sold on him all the way. This was the one to me that I felt like, okay, that dynamic between the two of them, it looks like it's going to work. Like that end gag with him with the cards, and he just kind of Chewie it's already there. It's already forming, and that's what I want to see. I want to learn about them and how they become. It's Riggs and Murtaugh, how they first kind of got together. Plus the fact everybody's been talking about the shot in this trailer about Slave One.
Is it Slave One? There's a very,
Dude,
very quick shot at the end when you see something that either is a spaceship or it's an iron, or it could be Slave
It's Slave One. But what I'm hoping, I don't know if I talked about it on Movie Talk last week or was Jedi Council. I can't remember.
You talk a lot about Star Wars.
I do, but I don't remember. I don't want him and Boba Fett to be feuding at all.
Right.
They should be on the same side, because Jabba the Hutt at the time when Jabba in New Hope, he's good with Han. Him and Han are they have no beef except the fact they had that conversation of, come on, man, I gotta let you know you can't do this, Han, my boy. He has that conversation with him, and then Boba, he doesn't sick on Han until right around after the events of New Hope.
Isn't there going to be some sort of competitive nature between the two of them?
Competitive, yes.
If Woody Harrelson is hiring Han Solo for this mission, maybe Boba Fett is also hired to go on this mission. So I want to see a healthy competition, which in Star Wars means I'm shooting lasers at
yes,
your ship.
A competition. Yeah, I just don't want to see Boba Fett kind of going after Han at all.
It's not as personal.
Exactly.
Jon Schnepp.
Yes.
What are we going to be yapping about when we leave the theater? Is it going to be, oh my God, Boba Fett was in it and he was the best part? Or do you agree with Kristian? You think Chewie is possibly the standout of the movie?
Well, I'll say, I'm with Kristian as far as these last two trailers, like the full trailer and then this TV spot or whatever you want to call it, where it really sold me on I was going to go regardless. I was going to see the film, but it really got me excited to see the film because to me, that's the interplay between Han and Chewie is what was great about Star Wars. The very first time you meet Han Solo and Chewbacca in Mos Eisley, in that cantina, it's like that's when they're hanging out and they're talking to each other, and you get that kind of interplay with this, where it feels like Chewie's a real character. I played Knights of the Old Republic. I've been to Kai-Shak for many hours, and I want to go. Hopefully they go there. I don't know if they're going to that planet or not.
It looks like they're on Kashyyyk at one point.
So you're going to get to meet some of the ladies in Chewie's life.
Well, I'm hoping we find out about how the life debt happened. In this new version of canon, this will be whatever it's going to be. That's going to be whatever it is for the future.
Is that what we see in the show? Because Han in the trailer that we covered last week when he's kind of rescuing him on the train, do you think that's like the life debt?
I don't
we're
think
talking
that
about?
part is. No, I think something happens beforehand, like that shot where Chewie's saying goodbye to his wife. I think that's Chewie saying, "Look, this guy did something for us. I got to do the life debt. I got to protect this guy." And she's like, "Yeah, it's the life debt. Get the hell out of here."
I think it's that shot right behind you. That's when the life debt starts.
Maybe.
It feels like, at least in the trailer, because
Yeah.
it's like he doesn't have his bandoliers yet. Who knows? Maybe that's the end of the movie. I have no idea.
I think it's the beginning. Yeah,
Our
you're
audience
right.
is going to be savvy's the wrong word, forgiving's the wrong word, but our audience is going to be accepting of it. Just general audiences, not the people that live and breathe this stuff. Are they going to be accepting of a new Han Solo and a new Lando in the same? Because we're gonna walk in there, we're gonna know it's not Harrison Ford. But are just general audiences going to be disappointed that it didn't feel more like Han Solo or like Billy D. Williams for that matter?
I don't think so.
Remember, though, one of the things we're not talking about, too, is that there's going to be a new generation of fans that come in that is their Han Solo.
Yeah, they're going to look at Harrison Ford and be like, "Who's this?" Just like, "Who's Billy D. Williams?" It should be Donald Glover,
right?
We're in that middle ground where we're seeing that baton passover. But in 10 years, there's going to be kids exactly what you're talking
That's
about.
what it is. There's going to be people out there. Look, there are people out there that Rogue One was the first Star Wars movie they ever saw. This is going to be the first Star Wars movie for some people. There's going to be the majority of people know. Majority of people, it's going to be they're hardcore fans, and I think that's the thing, is that this does play to the hardcore fan base, and that's one of the things I talked about recently on Jedi, is that I think that they should go after that hardcore fan base and capture everyone else around it by making a good movie like they did with Rogue One. And I think that this movie is going to capture brand new fans. People will be accepting of it if he does a good job in general. It's very similar like James Bond. Mm-hmm. It's like not every Bond played Bond the same way. So you're going to have to, you go into this movie, you have to understand that it's not Harrison Ford.
Nope.
And it is not, and I don't want this kid to do an impression of Harrison Ford. I want to feel that it's Han Solo. I haven't felt it yet, except in this past trailer was the first time I felt, okay, that looks like maybe we're going to get there. And you can judge it however you want, but I want to see a good movie. If Chewie and Lando are the standouts and he's just okay, I'll be fine with it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, the cinematography of Bradford Young looks pretty incredible. I mean, that's one of the things that a lot of people are gushing about with all this footage, and it just looks mind-bogglingly awesome from that perspective. We do have a poll up right now. Something fun that we've been doing the last couple weeks is we have a poll that you can participate in watching the show live on YouTube. If you're listening to us on a podcast, well, just enjoy the silky smooth tones of my voice. But if you're actually watching us live, you can just click that I in the corner of the vid, and you can vote. Our poll today is is a fun one. What's the best performance all time by everyone's favorite Wookiee, Chewbacca? There's 5 versions of Chewbacca's performances. There's 5 different films you can pick from. You can go any of the original trilogy, or you can go The Last Jedi, or you can go The Force Awakens. Revenge of the Sith, I know he was in it, Kristian.
Right,
it's not eligible for the panel. Sorry to Mark Fernandez and everybody else who thinks Revenge of the Sith is the best Star Wars movie of all time. If I throw you guys, what's the best Chewie performance? What's the best you've ever seen Chewie? Force Awakens gives it a run for its money.
Empire. He does. I mean, he fixes up C-3PO.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot. At the end, he's ready to blast through and Bespin. Leia's got to come down. He chokes out Lando. He's flying the Falcon on the way out.
He's got a lot of like
got a lot to
star
do.
scenes in that, but for me, it's still the original Star Wars. Let the Wookiee win, like just walking carpet, like just his introduction to the mythology. Like for me as a kid, those are the 2 standouts for me: Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, somebody got this walking carpet out of my way.
Yeah.
Look, I love Jedi's my favorite movie, and he actually plays a crucial role in the Battle of Endor. I mean, I know that he's thinking with his stomach for the beginning when we get there, but then he really comes to play and helps the rebellion out. Force Awakens, though, Chewie is so good. He's funny. It's just the interplay between him and Han Solo. It's some of my favorite all-time interplay between those 2 characters. Hopefully we get a lot more of that in Solo, a Star Wars story, on May 25th. Make sure you guys vote in the poll, and I'll keep you guys updated later on in the show. We move on to the box office results from this past weekend. A Quiet Place almost retained the #1 spot, and it would have been a monster upset over Rampage. Rampage did, in fact, squeak by and get the #1 slot domestically for the weekend with $34.5 million. A Quiet Place right on its heels, $32.6 million. Truth or Dare, an impressive debut for the Blumhouse movie, almost $20 million. Ready Player One, over $11 million, and Blockers at $10 million, rounding out the top 5. But it should be noted that Black Panther was number 6, and Isle of Dogs was number 7. Internationally is where Rampage made a lot of its money, which you could surmise from a video game movie. It did $55 million in China alone. Internationally, it's already done over $100 million of business. So that seems to be the way that video game movies are marketed. That's the way that studios know that they might not crush it here domestically. I did expect a lot higher of an opening weekend take for Rampage because it's got The Rock in it, and anything that he does turns the gold. What was the difference with Rampage, Kristian, over something like Jumanji? Why was this not as either well received, or why was this not as participated in by the fans?
Well, the first part is it's not even close to as good in quality as far as from Jumanji to Rampage. Jumanji, the second people saw it, were like, you got to see it. It's fun. This one's just okay. It's just in 1995, this movie would have been #1, no doubt.
Right.
It is, compared to all the other different summer movies, and it's not even a summer movie, but you have all this. You have Avengers coming around the corner. You have all these other movies that are right around the corner, and people are saving their money to see other things. This is a movie that just, if the word of mouth would have been bigger, then maybe they would have come out to see it. I also think that, and I would have rather this movie got another $20 million than Truth or Dare make a single cent. I thought that movie was atrocious. And the
Truth or Dare is impressive because you had another horror movie you could go see.
It probably just made all of its money back within seconds because
the movie cost like $3 million to make.
And that's the. No matter what I thought about the movie, Blumhouse is the smartest production company in the history of cinema. I'm telling you, it's like the amount of profit they make. It's just like, go make that. How much? I don't know. What are we laying around in the back? Use what's in the safe, and then make a movie. Oh yeah, what do we just quadrupled what was in the safe. It's like because they put crap actors in the thing that's not fair. That's not fair. They put actors in the movie that it was a crappy script. The actors were actually not that bad. I hate that movie.
It's a premise. It's sold on a premise,
yes.
And you could say the same thing for A Quiet Place, where you see A Quiet Place trailer and you see Truth or Dare, you know what you're getting when you see those movies. Because with A Quiet Place, it's a cool conceit that, we can't talk and there's these monsters that only hear. How are we going to survive that? With Truth or Dare, everybody played that game. It appeals to the masses, and I think a lot of people probably saw A Quiet Place and are like, you know what? Horror movies are fun to go see in the theater. Let's do another one. We saw Truth or Dare. Was it Truth or Dare's $20 million, Schnepp? Or do you think it was A Quiet Place's 32.6 that took the most of a chunk out of Rampage?
Definitely A Quiet Place is the one that took the bite out of Rampage. I think, the other films are just kind of adequate. You know what I mean? Like, they're all the other three are just okay in descending order, I think. But A Quiet Place is an incredible horror film, and that benefited from incredible word of mouth. And then all the people who saw it, like the minute I saw it, I could not wait to share with everyone I know, you've got to go see this movie in the theater. And if anybody talks, yell at them or scream at them. It's like, it's literally, you have to be, if you're going to see a movie in a movie theater, this is that movie that puts the demands on you. If you're a couch potato, you're used to talking during a film in your living room, you cannot do that in a theater. Right. That demands silence. So, I mean, I feel like most of the audiences that I've heard have been going to see this are in it for that, like they're enraptured by
experience,
it. Because I mean it's a very frightening, intense film throughout the entire thing. I haven't seen Truth or Dare yet, but it feels to me like it falls into the same kind of Happy Death Day world but I liked Happy Death Day. So I've heard Truth or Dare is a stinker. I'm probably still going to see it.
It's just generic. It's just the same thing that you've seen
just a dumb
times.
Smiley face. It felt like, Final Destination mixed with, Stupid Game and a bunch of different stuff. It's a good mixture or whatever. Rampage also, isn't that the #1 video game of all time so far as the box office? Like,
I don't know. What did
weekend?
Tomb Raider do?
Tomb Raider didn't quite do that well. When Tomb Raider opened, it opened around the mid-20s. So this is one of the best video game adaptation openings from that angle. But this is not a normal video game movie. It's got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in there. We're talking about how, is Rampage going to be one of his highest box office grossers of all time? That's not going to be the case. Does this change your expectations for Skyscraper at all?
No, not at all. I mean,
because that's coming out in the heat of the summer.
No, not at all. I think that there's a different director, different writers. I think that
no giant gorillas.
I also, you're not wrong. I think that it's a matter of. I'm hoping that this is The Rock's Die Hard. That's what I'm hoping the movie's going to be, and I hope that it's not an empty movie. This movie, for the most part, the Rampage relied on The Rock because the best chemistry in the whole movie was The Rock and George, the gorilla. It was the best part of the whole movie, and anytime he was on screen, you wanted to watch because that's what The Rock is able to do, and that's the reason why his movies make money. But I want Skyscraper to have because Die Hard is one of the best of all time because not only because it was just a great action movie, it had a lot of depth for an action movie. It had a lot of character development and story, and you cared about the movie, and it did take itself seriously. And that's what I want to see from Skyscraper. I don't know if you'll get it, but that's what I'm hoping for.
I would agree with you. That's why we were calling it Sky Hard before. You need to give the characters for the movie, especially dealing with a 90-minute film, you got to give them some setup or whatever it is. It's like, under 2 hours. Like the same thing with Ready Player One. Like when you don't care about the main characters because there's no background, it's an empty movie. So it's, cool Easter eggs. Yay, I saw a visual thing that I never need to see again. So I'm kind of like tired of these like giant blockbusters that are just full of empty calories. I want like some kind of sustenance there. I don't know if I'm going to get that with Skyscraper, probably not, but you never know.
Empty calories is a good way to put it. And I think something that cannot be underrated is how much people are talking about the theater experience of A Quiet Place. I think that's why it did so well. And it's a positive and it's a negative too, because people are really getting amped up in this movie. And if you hear like a candy bag rattling next to you or you hear somebody eating popcorn, it's like it just plays on your nerves so much in that movie, more so than any movie I've seen. I think that's why people want to rush out to see that movie. So I'm very interested to keep an eye on that as it goes into this weekend because it doesn't have a whole lot of competition. I mean, I think I agree with Kristian. I think Truth or Dare made the bulk of its money this weekend, and it's going to fizzle out pretty fast, which is perfectly fine with Blumhouse. They've already got what they came for.
Is Quiet Place, is that like the lowest drop? I mean, because what was the drop? The drop
was 30.
Because
it's a very low drop.
Yeah, because it's had the lowest in like a long time, right? From #1 to the second week. Because
just 35%. Yeah, I mean,
when was the last time a movie dropped just 35% in 2 weeks?
A movie that makes that much money. It's very rare.
Right.
But I mean, sometimes movies come out, they have a smaller opening, and then they don't drop as much because they get word of mouth through their Oscar
50
movies.
50 to 30 something. That's
50
pretty
to 30.
impressive.
That's a great hold for a movie like that. I don't think Rampage is going to have near the hold of that. And I don't think Truth or Dare is. So we'll see how I Feel Pretty and Super Troopers 2 shape up against The Quiet Place and all the other movies at the box office this weekend. Well, a movie that is set to be at the box office a year from this summer is the new Terminator reboot. And now Tim Miller has found possibly his new lead and the Terminator. The Terminator itself is going to be played by Gabriel Luna. Gabriel Luna is somebody who you probably know from, he's been in a variety of roles over his career. Most recently, you can check him out as Ghost Rider in the ABC series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's also in Matador, and he is going to be starring opposite Colombian actress Natalia Reyes. She has been rumored to have booked the lead role as somebody who is a young woman in Mexico City who finds herself in the struggle between the humans and the machines. scenes. I think that this is great casting on a number of fronts. We also have Scream Queen star Diego Boneta has been added to the cast, and he will be playing Natalia's brother in the movie. Kristian, it looks like we're going to have a lot more action in here, and we know that we're going to have Linda Hamilton and Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back. This adding another layer of diversity and authenticity from being the Southern California, Mexico border, which we see a lot of in Terminator 2, particularly. Picking up from there, how do you feel about this casting?
I like the unknown quality of it because this is a time when you can do that because the Terminator name alone, and you have Arnold and you have Linda in there. I think it was a really smart move for them to say, let's put quality actors in the roles. Let's make it relevant to where the story takes place, and let's shine a light on brand new faces. And granted, they've been working, but brand new faces as far as more in this giant spotlight in this type of franchise, because this movie is getting the attention of no. This is right after T2. This is going to be something a little different. This is Terminator's last shot, by the way. This is Terminator's last shot. It's going to start to go into Crow territory if it misses, because they're going to take a shot.
Start.
Here.
What do you mean start to go? I think it's
no, but I'm saying this is
this is it,
because you've got you still have 1 and 2 is where really Crow really only had one,
and the Terminator series have always been large budget fiascos,
and they keep taking this shot and just not working. And this is your last shot to stop trying to turn it into again an empty sci-fi movie and give it more of that depth that the first 2 had.
Yeah.
And if you do it with brand new, because nobody knew who Robert Patrick was, by the way, and Robert Patrick is now still iconic from that role. So this is great.
Dude, I think the secret weapon of this is not even the casting, which I love. I love that they're going with unknowns, and I think all the people they've got are really talented. Like if you've seen him as Ghost Rider, he's a really good actor. I don't know which kind of tea. Is he going to be liquid metal? We don't know what he's going to be. But the secret weapon is Tim Miller. He's a gigantic science fiction nerd. A lot of people don't know he's a book nerd. Like, I know you don't read books, Mark, but this guy's read more books than I've ever heard of. He's like literally volumes of not only comic books, but actual books, with no pictures. So, and he's smart. I've had the chance to hang out and talk with him multiple times, and I'm impressed by him. Like, not only was he able to pull off an amazingly hard shoot with Deadpool and do an incredible job, he's been running Blur Animation Studios. That is his animation studio, so you better bet your bottom dollar that this is going to be animated to the T. That everybody's going to be working overtime to make sure that this looks incredible. So to me, that's what is most exciting. And having James Cameron not just do the lip service that he's done on the last couple, like totally endorse this, and you're like, what? He's in there working on the script at least once a week with those guys. So, to me, that's where I'm excited about it. I guess, I got sold on the Terminator when that happened. So.
I'm curious with Deadpool 2 also. I'm obviously rooting for Deadpool 2. I love the first one. But after Deadpool 2 comes out, I wonder how noticeable it will be that Tim Miller wasn't involved. And not a good or bad thing, just how very similar to what we were talking before as far as style goes, because that movie had a very specific style to it. And I wonder after you see the second one, if they're A, trying to mimic what Miller did, or B, it's just completely different.
Yeah,
which is fine. And I'm not saying that means Tim Miller, it's going to be crappy. No, I think it's got a shot to be great.
I think it'll be different, and it'll be noticeably different because, him and Reynolds notoriously butted heads, especially in post production. And that's where a movie's made, is in post production. It's made. That's where we always hear Aquaman's having reshoots. Why? Because of post production. They figured out things that didn't work, and they're going to go address those with reshoots. It's the same type of thing where you're like, I think this scene should say, I think this scene should go. It's that's where you start butting heads, and that's where the decision-making powers with Deadpool 2 are in different hands now.
Right.
We're going to see that. It could be a totally different beast and work just as well, if not better. So it's hard to tell.
Is this going to be the last shot for Terminator? Or do you think that regardless of what happens with this movie, there's going to be a reboot 5 years down the road?
They might, but I think that it's the fans, though, at this point. I think the fans are going to be forgiving this one last time. I think the fans are going to – I think that, there's a lot of the mainstream fans that still don't know who Tim Miller is, even though he has one of the most successful comic book movies of all time. Right. But I think that the fans that do know him will give him the shot. I think that if – James Cameron's going to start to be the boy who cried wolf if he keeps giving these fake endorsements. But I think that this last time we'll trust him one more time.
Certainly could be Arnold's last run.
Oh, yeah. for sure. And I think that they've got to be very careful on how they do that. You want to make sure that it's a believable way. You don't want to have, and I trust in Tim Miller that he's not going to make Arnold try to be this same version of the Terminator that he was in 1991 or whatever it was. It's
I know this, they're going back to the basics. They're stripping it down and making it very much like the original 1984 Terminator.
I love that.
And it's also, they're going back to the flavor of that it's a hard sci-fi. I mean, even though it's unrealistic sci-fi, they're going to try to stick to the nuts and bolts of the sci-fi and the idea of the time travel that was introduced via even Harlan Ellison's original story that they kind of like took from. So I feel like, you know, you got your best shot with the Terminator, and then you're right. After this, if this doesn't work, you know, it'll be dead for a couple of years. They might try doing it as a TV series or animated series. Yeah, but I don't see it as a feature film. But if this hits, they've got a trilogy all ready to go.
I like that they had some people in mind to play these roles, and they expanded the screen testing to include Central and South America, and that's where they found, particularly Natalia Reyes, who is unknown here in the States. She's done some Colombian shows, and she was on a popular children's program there. But I like that they extended the search, because to me that means that they're looking for the right person for this role, and not just somebody either famous you can throw in there or somebody that's easy that you can plug in here. This is the right casting. And like you said about Tim Miller, this is a long way from Terminator Rise of the Machines, which was directed and written by people who admitted that the reason why they did it was so they could buy a house. Tim Miller's not doing this to make a boatload of money. He's doing this because he cares about this property. So that's why I'm excited to see it. One note is that it will not be opening next summer. It was pushed due to various conflicts to November of 2019, which I think we agreed when we talked about. I don't know if you guys were on the panel last week, but we actually unanimously agreed that's a good move for Terminator landing in November instead of competing.
Date too. I like that. I like that. It's summer to me now is starting to become crowded real estate.
Way crowded.
Yeah, it's like November and December now. You find a little bit more of the quality blockbuster films. Like you can get some. I mean, I think isn't that when Jumanji dropped?
Yeah, you want to go have
Jumanji was Christmas, the holiday
still,
season.
November, December.
But yeah, you get your Thor Ragnaroks, you get your Cocos.
You have a good Thanksgiving Day weekend where you can see 2 or 3 amazing blockbuster films. That's kind of fun.
So go see Terminator Thanksgiving 2019 and have a conversation with your grandparents about how the robots are going to take over. We have one more story to get to before we take your live Twitter questions. You can start tweeting us right now at Collider Video. Use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk and ask us anything inside or outside the world of movies, and we're happy to answer it here. Danny Boyle and the company Working Title are working on a new upcoming film that is a musical comedy to be directed by Boyle, with production set to begin and filming set to begin as early as this summer. Ed Sheeran is in talks to be one of the contributors, both playing music and starring in the picture. Here's where the rub happens, is that it's got a great cast and it's very exciting. The premise of the movie is being kept largely under wraps, but here's what we know. It's about a guy who wakes up one day and he's the only person to remember the music of the Beatles. He's the only one. I don't know where you take that. I don't know if this guy is he's the only one that can remember the Beatles, so now he's going to steal all their stuff?
Right.
Does he just play it? Does he use that? If I was Mark Riley and I was the only person that remembered the Beatles, in my proposal this weekend, I would have quoted all of the great Beatles songs to get that ring on my girl's finger.
Sure.
Do you want to hold the hand of this movie, Jon Schnepp?
Yesterday. Yes and no. I'll have to wait and see. I mean, the premise is interesting. What I didn't like hearing was that Ed Sheeran is going to write his own music for it. So it made me think, if he remembers the Beatles music, is it then this character like reinterpreting and rewriting the music? Like, but is Ed Sheeran going to do that? Like,
I think that's kind of authentic to the premise, where if you woke up one day and you're the only one who remembered the Beatles, that means you can't go to a music store or you can't look up tablets and be like, oh, okay, these are the notes you play. So you kind of have to, everybody can sing along to the Beatles in the car.
Right.
When I actually put you to the fire and say, you have to remember all of the lyrics to Hey Jude, it's not as easy. I mean, I can do it, but it's not as easy as you may think. It's a lot more than just na-na-nas, Kristian.
Well, the question also is, Paul McCartney going to be in the movie? Does he forget it also? I mean, that's another thing though too that I'm curious about. But I love the idea, the premise of the thing. It reminds me of I didn't like the movie, but Hot Tub Time Machine Part 2. The best part was when Craig Robinson it was going back in time or he kept using all the songs that he knew and getting himself rich.
That's the only good part.
It's the only good part of the movie. But yeah, it's something along those lines. But it's because of what the Beatles music means to so many. Maybe that this character feels that he's got to let people know about it, and maybe he has conversations with Paul. Maybe Paul helps him out some way. I mean, who knows? But maybe is he what is the character like? Is he a good guy? Is he a scumbag that wants to profit? I mean, and with Danny Boyle, I mean, I think it's it could be really good.
You might have hit it on the head though, as like, like just flip me around a little bit, where if it is the Ed Sheeran dude, like who remembers all the Beatles songs and no one else does, and maybe he does start to use those Beatles songs, but he actually realizes by playing the Beatles songs, it helps him write his own songs.
Yeah.
And so that may be where they fill in like, hey, Slappy, write your own song, and here's like, like
Please
a little
let his name be
Sheeran
Slappy.
flavor, So.
I mean, but Ed Sheeran, whether his name is Slappy in the movie or not, I think it speaks to just the kind of persona that he brings on screen, and even in his music. Like when he was on Game of Thrones, some people were like, "Oh, this is just fan casting,
So
whatever."
silly.
It didn't take me out of the show, partially because I didn't realize it was him till after the fact. But you see him in the show, and he's fine in it. But he looks like somebody who you can root for, even if he's doing something that's a little underhanded. If he's borrowing some Beatles lyrics, I look at him kind of like Simon Pegg, where I could pull for that guy, even though he's doing some devious deeds. It's like, oh, he's got that heart of gold, even though he's ripping off the greatest band.
Yeah, I think he's going to be endearing, and I still, the only reason Game of Thrones fans cared at all is because they recognize him. What's Ed Sheeran?
Right.
And a lot of young teenage girls. Like, get him out of here. He was fine. He sat there around a campfire singing a stupid song. It's like nobody sings campfires in Game of Thrones. Get over it. But like,
they do.
It was so silly. It was like who cares? He was in it. He literally was in it for like 2 minutes.
People need to cry about something. I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway, so I think he's going to be endearing. I don't think they're going to pull, because again, I think that it's not easy to do. Give him what he knows. Let him be comfortable. You see every interview that I've ever seen him in or anything too. He just seems like kind of cool, quiet, endearing dude. So maybe they just play off of that.
Favorite Beatles tunes? You guys more early Beatles, late Beatles?
Can't Buy Me Love.
I like
Can't Buy Me Love?
I would say Yesterday or Eleanor Rigby
Yeah. Okay. All right.
or Nowhere Man.
You see, you start.
Nowhere Man.
You start listening them off, and it's like, God, I got a lot of
all
good
of the
stuff.
Yellow Submarine songs are great.
Yeah, right
Sergeant
now, I'm on
Pepper's.
a If I Needed Someone kick, but the Let It Be's, the Hey Judes of the worlds, the Hard Days Nights.
I like all the music that they did after they did Tons of Drugs, Come Together, all that, like the whole
There's a conspiracy.
that Rubber Biscuit universe, Rubber Soul. I know, I like saying Rubber
There's a
Biscuit.
conspiracy.
Yeah.
They never
Yo,
even
Rubber
smoked a
Biscuit,
joint,
man.
those people.
What's that?
They never even touched one drug. It was all oregano.
No.
It was like Dean Martin. It was always nice too.
I'm really drunk right now.
Never actually Jack Daniels.
man.
Well, the Beatles might be heroes to a lot of musicians and artists out there as well. We have our own hero right here on the set, and that is Mr. Jon Schnepp. And All New Heroes is up later on today. What are we yapping about?
Oh my God, so much stuff. It's an all Beatles episode, man. We're gonna go into the Nowhere Man. Got those guys chucking the apples from the animated. We're gonna talk about superhero stuff. What are we going to talk about?
You know what?
We're probably going to talk about this film. I don't know how many people are going to see it. It's only being released in a few theaters. It's called Avengers Infinity War.
Haven't heard of it? Tell me more.
Yeah, it's a bunch of weird heroes coming together to fight this giant purple dude. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and perhaps this brand new group that's going to be introduced, that's already been introduced, that people aren't talking about. And we're going to talk about why aren't they being talked about, and when do they show up? Is it going to be Guardians 3? Are they going to show up in Avengers Infinity War? And if you don't know who I'm talking about, tune into Heroes.
Yeah, it's a movie that's coming out in a couple of weeks. We have a lot of new shows that we've been launching the last few weeks here on Collider Video. You can check them out right now, including Now, Later, Never, their review of Rampage and Truth or Dare's up. Perry and Roca doing a great job with that show. We also have Captioned This. Follow us on Instagram for more information at Collider Video. And Kristian Harloff, one-on-one. Tell us about it, dude.
Just long form, me and a special guest kind of sitting down, having conversations for like 45 minutes to an hour. First one was Dan Fogler. Just talked to the great Clancy Brown. That's up there right now.
Great voice.
Yeah, I think Sinead DeFries is actually going to be my next guest. So
right.
I'm just kind of switching. I'm switching it up. I'm going to do some people that maybe some familiar faces, and we'll do that. And then I know that we're talking about the iTunes feed off. You can go to the iTunes feed and you can get one-on-one with Kristian Harloff. But you can also get Collider Heroes, Jedi Council, Movie Talk, the Collider Factories, where we have our wrestling show now. It's called Collider Body Slam. John Roca and Jay Washington talked about everything that happened last week in the world of wrestling. This week will be Jay Washington, John Roca, and Aaron Turner. Myself and I think like Ken will kind of show up for some pay-per-views here and there, but there's a lot going on. So go to the iTunes feed. Really, really important. Or not just iTunes. You can go to Podcast One if you're an Android user.
Wherever you download your content for your ears, and check out on the Movie Talk feed if you guys are listening to us right now, or you're watching us and you're interested in the Movie Talk feed, you're going to the gym, you're driving in the car, you just want us in your ears because we're so ugly to look at, then check out the podcast feed for Movie Talk right now, because you get Movie Talk 5 days a week. You also get Collider Afterthoughts starring Ryan and Jay. They recap everything in the world of Movie Talk, in the world of Collider. Occasionally some Schmo stuff leaks in there as well. Jon Schnepp, there's people that are going to be talking about our performance. How do you feel about about
People
that.
talking about people talking about people. So afterbuzz. No, wait, not afterbuzz. Afterthoughts.
There you
I
go.
can't wait to listen to these guys. Kristian was just telling me they kind of recap what we talked about, and then add additional flavor. It's like drizzling of flavor on top of flavor.
They take it from a fan's perspective. That's the whole point of it too, and that's why Fernandez used to listen to it when it was on the Schmo Plus.
Mark Fernandez might be in the top 10 fans that Ryan and Jay have.
But he would listen. He would listen to them, what he wanted that pure fans take from it, because you hear they'll criticize, they'll give their thoughts on everything that's going on, and it's really. I listened to the show yesterday when I was just shopping, and it's great. They're break. I was shopping at a supermarket, and I was listening to them. But they do, and they have some great ideas. They have some off the wall ideas, some crazy theories, things that are terribly wrong, and things that are terribly right. So you should check them out.
All right, and the last but not the least item we have to get to before we get to your live Twitter questions is, of course, the Schmodown Free-for-All. It dropped this weekend. We've been getting a ton of tweets, a lot of social media coverage on this monstrous event, Kristian. This thing was bigger than Rampage.
There's 48 people all competing. It was great. It had some really crazy moments. My favorite thing that I saw this weekend, though, so there were a couple of them. There was a UK watch-along, and there was a watch-along in Arizona where they had this whole bar, and you watch the reactions, the things that happened. This full bar and the fans were just screaming and yelling, and you can watch a lot of that at Late to the Party, and there's some stuff that I tweeted out. It was really fun to watch. But both parts, 1 and 2, are up right now. Overwhelmed by the amount of people who have already watched it and commented and liked. So thank you guys very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was cool seeing all the fan meetups like all across the world,
crazy,
really,
right?
and like how packed the actual bars were. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, we could do like shows in front of an audience of that size.
June
we could do
2nd.
stand-up shows.
June 2nd's the next live show. Just saying. June 2nd.
Okay, well, with more on that as details come in. We move on to your live Twitter questions, and kicking us off in this segment is Tyler Dawson, and he says, with the poor reviews on Truth or Dare, will this hurt Blumhouse's credit, or will the fact that it made over 20 million, almost 20 million opening weekend, only enhance it? It's an interesting query, because here's the angle you take, is how long is Blumhouse going to be Teflon when it comes to reviews? Do you think it matters at all, Kristian?
Unfortunately, no, I don't. I think because this movie, Truth or Dare, was not meant for me. It was meant for 15 to 18-year-olds that wanted to go see a silly, dopey movie, and it delivered on that, and it cost nothing to make.
You knew what you were getting with that movie.
You did. You knew exactly that. But I think it was more like I was disappointed in Blumhouse because of what Blumhouse had been doing, and they've been casting more with inside of the higher quality talent, or more experienced talent, better scripts, smarter films. And I was like, okay, let's get back to that. And then they just reverted back to the thing that was like just the easy kind of cash grab film. But the answer to the question is no, it would not hurt them at all because of the profit that they made. They'll switch back, do exactly what I want them to do again, and then they'll switch back and they'll do another fart piece that'll make, $100 million.
I can't remember. Is The Purge part of the Blumhouse?
I don't think
or
so.
that's Lionsgate or something.
I don't
totally
remember. But you
separate.
think everything is Blumhouse at this point, because anything successful, you think it's Blumhouse.
Yeah, can anything taint the brand, Jon Schnepp? I mean, because like Kristian said, they've had a mixture. To be
Right.
fair, that they've had a lot of movies come out that have been critically acclaimed, but then every so often you get a Truth or Dare that they're like, oh, this is just fun, stupid popcorn stuff.
Yeah, but I think that's the business that they're in. Just like I couldn't remember whether that one thing was from them. It's like they have Blum Tilt or whatever the heck that one's called. There's some other 500,000 and less
Blumhouse
going.
Tilt, yeah.
Blumhouse Tilt. Where it's like, look, they're in the business to make fun, low budget horror films, and not everyone's going to be a hit. Not everyone's going to be that amazing. Not everyone's made to be critically acclaimed. They deliver what they're supposed to deliver, which are thrills and scares and of different variety. So like for myself, Truth and Dare might not be the movie for me, but some of their other films are that they end up releasing. So whether or not they're going to keep making more Truth or Dare part 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, they are most definitely going to make more of those. Why? Because it just made $20 million. Case closed.
Vincent is our last question today in honor of the great trailer that we got for the Meg last week. If you haven't seen the international trailer, it's even better than the domestic one. Vincent says, we've seen killer sharks, crocs, snakes, you have your giant apes, you have your wolves, all that stuff that we've seen recently in theaters. So what predator would you like to see next eating people on the big screen? For him, he says he wants to see a cinematic take on the man-eating tigers of India, and he's going to call that movie Man-Eater. That could be the sequel to Perry Nemiroff's Child Eater. So, Jon Schnepp, what animal do you want to see eat people on screen next? Oh, boy. Okay, let's go. Oh, boy, Haven't seen them in a while. If you're listening to us on the podcast feed, you either know exactly what happened or you have no idea, and you might think that two people went to the bathroom.
I do want to see chipmunks kill people.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, well,
like real chipmunks, not the animated ones.
Not by bad movies and bad dialogue in the theater. I want to see them actually chew people, like mutant chipmunks.
That'd be amazing.
With big feet, and they wear jean jackets. And one's name is Louis, and the other one's name is
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
This is a horrifying,
Terrifying
and terrifying and Louis and horrifying.
We'll
those
call
are
it
the
Terrifying
three.
Louis.
Yeah, I would totally pay money to see that. Blumhouse, get on it. That's your next horror trilogy.
$100 million.
Yep.
oh, Chipmunks have been killing this show for a long time. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Collider Movie Talk. I'll be at the Hartford Funny Bone this weekend, hopefully killing audiences a little bit more than the S-Rats do here on the show. That is Jon Schnepp. That is Kristian Harloff. Check him out, Collider Heroes Jedi Council and one-on-one with Kristian Harloff. For them, I am Mark Ellis. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a new episode of Collider Movie Talk. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.